To understand the real Robin Hood, you have to understand what an outlaw actually was. In medieval England, the word outlaw didn't mean rebel. It meant something far worse. An outlaw was a man declared outside the protection of the king's law. Anyone could kill him. He had no rights, no property, no name. They called him Wolf's Head, and he carried a bounty like any wild beast in the forest. Sherwood was no fairy tale wood. It was royal hunting ground. Killing a deer was a hanging offense. The men who lived inside it weren't merry. They were desperate. Former soldiers, broken peasants, fugitives from royal justice.
They call us outlaws. They think it means we chose this. We didn't. We were chosen by judges who never met us, by kings who'd never miss us. Out here, you fight or you starve. There is no third option.
By the late 1200s, dozens of these men were operating across England, and one name kept appearing in the court records. The first time that name appeared, it belonged to a child killer. The earliest surviving Robin Hood stories were written in the 15th century. Not stories for children, stories for grown men in taverns, drinking warm ale, listening to ballads sung by traveling minstrels. In one of them, Robin Hood and the Monk. Robin is captured after being recognized in a church. A Benedictine monk informs on him to the sheriff of Nottingham. Robin's men ride out for revenge.
The monk knew what he'd done. He'd sold a man to the sheriff for coin. We found him on the road north. He didn't beg long.
The monk was traveling with a young page, a boy no more than 12. He had seen Little John's face. He could identify them, so they killed him too. The ballad doesn't apologize. It doesn't justify. It treats the murder of a child as a tactical necessity.
I wasn't with the monk I believed in anything. I was with him because that was my job. They killed him, and then the big one looked at me, and I knew what it meant.
This is the Robin Hood the Tudors didn't want you to know, and the murder of the page boy was just the beginning. In another early ballad, Robin Hood and Guy of Gisborne, Robin meets a bounty hunter sent into the forest to find him. A man dressed in horsehide, carrying a bow and a sword. They fight. Robin wins. But the killing is not the end of the ballad. It is the beginning of something worse.
He came into my forest wearing a dead horse's skin, looking for my head. I gave him exactly what he brought with him.
Robin decapitates Guy. Then with his knife, he carves the dead man's face apart until it is unrecognizable. He strips the body, puts on Guy's horsehide cloak, and walks back to the sheriff's camp wearing the skin of the man he just killed. This is not the hero of Sherwood. This is something older, something darker. And here is the truth most historians won't tell you. There was no single Robin Hood.
I wrote the name down 3 times this year. 3 different men, 3 different counties. They all called themselves Robin Hood. They all hanged.
By the 13th century, the name appears in court rolls as Rob Hood, a generic alias for fugitives, like calling a man John Doe. It wasn't a person. It was a brand, a label criminals borrowed to make themselves harder to track. But one man came closer to the legend than any other, and his story is the one they tried hardest to bury. By now, you might think this is just a theory, that historians are guessing. They're not. In 1439, a man named Piers Venables proved it, and the proof is still sitting in England's official records today. Venables was a gentleman from Derbyshire, not a peasant, not desperate. He had land, status, a name worth something, and he threw it all away in a single afternoon. A prisoner was being taken to jail under armed guard. Venables ambushed the guard, freed the man, and vanished. Then he did something stranger. He gathered armed men around him. He led them into the woods, and he began to live exactly as the old ballads described. The authorities were furious. They took the case all the way to Parliament, and in the official parliamentary record, a document that survives to this day, the clerks wrote something extraordinary. They wrote that Venables and his men had gone into the woods like as it had been Robin Hood and his company.
They wrote my name in the same breath as a story. They didn't know if Robin Hood was ever real. Neither did I. But we both understood exactly what the name was for.
By 1439, Robin Hood was no longer a memory of a man. It was a template, a script, a thing any man could step into the moment he decided to live outside the law. It wasn't a story about an outlaw. It had become an instruction manual for becoming one. And Venables wasn't the first to follow it. The court rolls of medieval England are scattered with men who took the name, took to the woods, and took whatever they wanted. But none of them came closer to the original than a man who lived almost 200 years before Venables was even born. A man whose life matches the oldest surviving ballad, almost word for word. His name was Roger Godbert. He was born in Leicestershire in the early 1200s, a minor landholder, a tenant farmer, a man of no importance until the Second Barons' War. When the English barons rose against King Henry III, Godbert took up arms with them. He fought at the Battle of Evesham in 1265. He saw his commander, Simon de Montfort, hacked apart on the field. He survived. And when the war was lost, he didn't go home. He went into the forest. For 4 years, Godbert led an outlaw gang out of Sherwood Forest. They robbed the clergy, ambushed the wealthy, attacked sheriffs. He was hunted by the Sheriff of Nottingham himself. When he was finally caught in 1272, he was thrown into the Tower of London. And then something impossible happened. King Edward I, the most ruthless English king of the medieval era, let him go, pardoned him. No one has ever explained why, and it would take another 200 years before someone decided this killer needed a new story. By 1521, England had changed. The Tudors were on the throne. The country was nervous. Peasants had revolted. Religious wars were brewing. The last thing the nobility wanted was working men telling stories about a yeoman who killed sheriffs and got away with it. So a Scottish historian named John Major picked up his pen.
He cannot be a peasant. The story is too dangerous if he is a peasant, so I will make him a lord, a fallen earl, a man the common people can admire without becoming him.
Major rewrote Robin Hood as a nobleman, a wronged earl who fought a corrupt king, but who fundamentally respected the order of things. The Earl of Huntingdon, a gentleman. The robberies were softened. The murders disappeared. The decapitation of Guy of Gisborne was erased. The page boy was erased. The medieval gang violence was erased. In their place, Maid Marian, Friar Tuck, the Merry Men, the bow contests, the green tights, a children's story.
They took my men. They took my forest. They took my name. And then they gave it to a fairy tale. So when you tell your children the story of Robin Hood, remember, the real outlaws never wore green. They wore blood.
The hero you grew up with was an invention. the truth was buried for 500 years. This is how legends are made. A killer becomes a thief becomes a rebel becomes a hero, and eventually, no one remembers the page boy, no one remembers the headless body in the forest, no one remembers Roger Godbert at all. History is written by the people who survive it, and the people who survive are rarely the ones who deserve to be remembered.